Happy New Year, fam. Happy New Year, lefties and advocates. Happy New Year. Happy New Year 2022. I hope and pray that this is going to be an amazing year for everyone, especially anyone who is a victim of domestic violence, a victim of any kind of abuse, whether physical, emotional, psychological, whatever kind of abuse or stigmatization you might be experiencing. It is my hope and prayer that this year would be different. This year would witness you getting justice. This year would cause you to witness triumph. This year will cause you to witness, joy like never before. Amen. And so today I will be talking to you all. I'm sorry we started quite late. It's been a while I used this setting, so I had some technical glitch trying to set things up on my end, and I really appreciate everyone who is joining right now or anyone who would catch the replay. My name is Bisola Miriam, and I am privileged to be the founder of the Left-Handers International Organization, where we seek to educate and sensitize, people from different parts of Africa about the dangers of forced hand switching. Our goal primarily is to educate families on the need to mitigate, discrimination against the use of the left hand. In addition to that, we also work to educate families, communities, organizations, and establishments, corporate or non-profit organizations on ways we can better support people who are navigating domestic violence, violent relationships or toxic relationships, and even more how organizations, be it corporate or private organizations, can work to create healthy environment devoid of toxicity. As someone who is a survivor of narcissistic abuse, it became very much important for me, even as the leader of this nonprofit in this new year and moving forward, to ensure that beyond all that we have done in the past, that we kind of, do a rethink of what we as a people, especially those of us in Africa, consider as abuse. A lot of times there's so much emphasis on what is, the general kind of abuse, which is physical abuse. And there is little or no awareness, let me not say no awareness, but there is little awareness on what's other kinds of abuse, especially emotional abuse, and which is what a lot of victims suffer from more than any other kind of abuse. So if you're watching me, let me know what your name is and where you're joining in from. Tell me your name and tell me where you're joining in from. Now, today I will be talking to you about, the first thing I'll be talking about is, what is abuse? What is stigma? What are the different kinds of abuse? What are the different kinds of stigma? I will then go on to talk about what the nonprofit has in stock, this year, what our plans are for the year and for the year. Let's start with the year. We have divided our activities for the year into 4, and I'm going to intimate you all about that. So let's get started. What is abuse? The United Nations has defined abuse in several ways. Has given us a definition of abuse. And because I want this to be as practical as possible, if you're watching me right now, tell me, what is the definition? What's your definition of abuse? Drop it in the chat. What is your own definition of abuse? What is your own definition of abuse? Drop it in the chat. Have you ever heard the word abuse before? Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining. Have you ever heard the word abuse before? Someone is joining, Ms. Oluwatobi Loba is joining from Pretoria, South Africa. If you've ever heard the word abuse, what is your definition of abuse? If you've ever heard the word stigma, for those watching on YouTube, on other platforms, what is your definition of abuse? Okay, so I will be reading to you all what the United Nations defines as abuse. Okay, a lot of times we just say, that's not abuse. Now you're exaggerating it. So I am going to be typing, on this phone, and I would be reading what is abuse. What is abuse? While I'm also waiting for you to let me have your responses, so I'm going to be reading what the way in which the United Nations defines abuse. The way in which the United Nations defines abuse. Okay, so first, there's a general definition that is popping up right now. I also want you to drop your comment in the chat. It says, abuse is the improper usage or treatment of a thing. Abuse is the improper usage or treatment of a thing, often to unfairly or improperly gain benefits. Let me take that one more time. Abuse is the improper usage or treatment of a thing, often to unfairly or improperly gain benefits. So anything you do, any action you take, any behavior, any attitude, whatever you do with the sole aim of treating someone in a way that is not proper, of treating something in a way that is not proper, it is called abuse. All right? It is called abuse. I'm going to look at the way in which, the United Nations talks about this. So there is another definition here. So now, give me one moment. So what is abuse? According to the United Nations. I'm going to talk to you. Now, we're still here. Now, what is domestic abuse according to the United Nations? Okay? Domestic abuse, according to the United Nations, is abuse can be physical. So let me start from here. It says abuse is physical, sexual, emotional, economic, or psychological actions or threats of actions that influence another person. Let me take that one more time. Abuse is physical, sexual, emotional, economic, or psychological actions or threats of actions that influence another person. So if you're doing anything with the intention to control, with the intention to assert authority over someone else or over something, then what you're doing is abuse. So you don't have to hit someone, which is the typical, the narrative in African communities. We say, is the person slapping you? If the person is not slapping you, so the person is not abusing you. That is, I'm telling you what is the real deal. The real definition of abuse is not what we know it to be. Abuse can be physical, sexual, emotional, economic, or, psychological. It can be threats, it can be actions, anything whatsoever that a person does to assert control or authority on another person. And this can include any behavior that frightens, that intimidates, that terrorizes, that manipulates, that hurts, humiliates, blames, injures, or wounds someone. Let me take that one more time. This can include any behavior that frightens, intimidates, terrorizes, manipulates, hurts, humiliates, blames, injures, or wounds someone. We all need to rethink what we consider as abuse. someone is abusing, like with this definition, I think everyone is being abused. Seriously. If you ask me, who agrees? If you agree, drop a comment. If you agree that with this definition of abuse, everyone is being abused, drop a comment. Drop a comment in the chat. If with this definition, you agree with me that everyone is currently being abused by someone somewhere, then you should drop a comment. Maybe your client is abusing you by threatening, by saying things to intimidate you. Maybe your neighbor is abusing you. Maybe your kids are being abusive to you, or you are the one even abusing your children. So the reality here that we seek to communicate to you through this, story therapy session is abuse. We need to rethink what we define, or the way in which we define or understand or conceptualize abuse. Abuse is not physical aggression alone. Abuse is not when someone slaps you or someone hits you. You telling a left-handed child, stop using your left hand, that's abusive. Okay? You telling someone to do something, even though the person does not want to or wish to, that's abuse. You threatening someone that if this person does not do this or do that, you're going to do this or do that, or you're going to harm that person. In fact, you going online to shame people or to say nasty things to people on social media is abusive. Let's get these things right, people. So today, my goal is to reorientate us and help us understand that abuse is not physical violence alone. Abuse is not when someone hits you or when someone spanks you. Someone says things to demean you, to reduce your worth, to make you think that you're not human. My brother, my sisters, African people, that is abuse. World people, that is abuse. Nobody, there's no other way to think, to conceptualize this than for you to now begin to than for you to understand that abuse is beyond physical violence. Say that in the chat. Say abuse is what? Beyond physical violence. I want you to drop a chat and say abuse is beyond physical violence. Abuse is what? It is beyond physical violence. Very important points. Now let's move on. What are the different kinds of abuse? There is physical, just like I've said. But the one that I want to call your attention to today is emotional abuse. Okay? Emotional abuse. A lot of us do not know that emotional abuse is the worst, if not the worst, kind of abuse on earth. It is the worst, if not even the worst kind of abuse that that anyone can ever deal with. Think about the fact that when it comes to emotional abuse, you're dealing with something inside. You're going through pain. You're going through a lot. Yet no one can see you. No one can see it. Everyone thinks that you're fine. Everyone sees you. You're smiling, bubbling with life and excitement. But you know that there's something eating you up. That is how deadly emotional abuse is. A lot of times left-handed people do not even, in today's world, do not get to be spanked or physically abused. We get to be emotionally abused every other day. A left-handed child or a left-handed adult walks into a store, picks an item, and you want to pay with your left hand, and then someone in the mall is saying, why can't you use your right hand to give this person money? Yada, yada, yada. And then they keep ranting. That is abusive. Because for the left-handed person, your self-esteem, like they do, so they reduce your self-esteem automatically. You leave that room, you leave that shopping mall feeling terrible. And then people look at you and like, Shoneni, did somebody beat you? No one has hit you physically. But guess what? It's painful. It's painful because you know it's hurting. And that scar is unseen. That scar is what? Is unseen. But yet you're going through the pain. And that reminds me of, one of my books, The Unseen Scars of Stigma, where I talked about the ways in which, people abuse us, the ways in which people stigmatize us, and how these things constitute emotional abuse. So much more that even though the world cannot see those scars, yet we suffer in silence. We suffer that pain, that anguish. So today I want you to begin to ask yourself, who am I abusing right now? Or who is abusing me? Emotionally, of course. You might not be a victim of physical violence. You might be a victim of emotional violence, in the sense that there's someone who says things to pull you down, who makes you feel that you're worthless. These are the different ways in which we face emotional abuse. Yet we focus so much on, there's no scar on the face now. She has a pretty skin. So she's possibly not being abused. But that is far from it. So one thing I want you to take away from today's session is the fact that physical violence is not the only form of abuse there is. Emotional abuse is one of the worst, the worst kind of abuse that you can ever deal with. Because nobody sees what you're going through, yet you're dying in pain. And think about the fact that every 40 seconds, according to the United Nations, according to the World Health Organization, every 40 seconds, someone dies by suicide. One of the quickest ways through which anyone can be forced to think or contemplate or even consider suicidal thoughts. The easiest way to consider suicidal thought is when you're suffering from emotional abuse. No one sees your scar. No one sees what you're going through, but you're suffering silently. And because you don't want the world to judge you, you think the only way is to commit suicide. The only way is to take your own life. The only way is to throw in the towel. Let me just end it all. After all, no one knows what I'm going through. You see, you alone deserve to be alive for yourself. If the only person who deserves the better version of you is you, then live and let the world burn. Say that in the chat. Say, let the world burn. Let the world burn for your sanity. Let the world burn for your mental health. Let the world burn so that you can thrive. Let the world burn, because you need to be alive to achieve those God-given mission, to achieve the things that Eledumare has called you here on earth to do for him. How do you do that if you're suffering in silence, and because you're worried and afraid of people's judgments or the way the society will stigmatize you, you throw in the towel? Do you know what? After a week, people will move on. Just remember, let that sink. After 1 week of your obituary, the world would adjust. In fact, 1 week is too much. They will post your picture 1 day, 2 day, 3 day. 3 days, 4, maybe 5 days, or maybe your family members will still mourn for a longer period of time. But eventually, the world would adjust. The world would adjust. So when you know that the world would adjust, it is you first before anybody. It is your happiness first. It is your sanity first before anybody. So if you're a left-hander watching me right now, and every day you wake up feeling bad, feeling sorry that, oh, I wish I can use my right hand. I wish I can conform. You were not created to conform. You were created to stand out. You were created to create a new narrative. and to set a new trend rather. You were created for a reason, and there is a reason you've been chosen to be left-handed. There's a reason you've been chosen to carry that stigma. There's a reason why you've been chosen to carry that mark. So no matter how bad you feel about that situation, about what your social construct is, you're a single mother, you're a lefty, you're currently jobless, you're a social media entrepreneur, and you feel, oh, how people will say, okay, I'm always posting, who will buy from me? And you're shy about promoting your brand. You feel that you'll be stigmatized, financial stigma. Or perhaps you're looking to study abroad, and you're like, if people know I want to study abroad now. Or maybe you even have a degree, maybe you have a third class, and you're suffering from academic stigma. Or maybe you cannot even walk right, and then people look at you and say, you don't even have straight legs. Or maybe one of your breasts is bigger than the other, or you don't have a flat tummy, or your cheek is just too big. And then you feel that these things are limiting. No, I'm telling you, those things are what makes you unique. There's a lady on, there's this this lady on Instagram, Nkechi. This lady is carrying a scar despite what people may think or say about her. Your scar right now may not even be 1% compared to what other people are carrying, yet you're judging yourself. It's lack of self-worth, because you need to get to that point where it is you first before the world. Let the world burn for your mental health. Emotional abuse is real, and it is the worst form of abuse ever, because no one sees your scars, no one sees what you're going through, yet you're suffering in pain, you're suffering in silence. That scar is unseen, but you're dying silently. You don't want to die too early just because you want to make people around you comfortable. Like I said, let the world burn. Let the world burn for your sanity, for your mental health, for the goodness of God inside of you to manifest. Let everyone, let them be. Lastly, every time we think about violence, we always focus on intimate partner violence. I want to wrap up this session by also letting you know that while there are different kinds of abuse, why physical violence is not the only form of violence there is, why intimate partner violence is not the only form of violence there is, you need to begin to pay attention to other kinds of violence, other kind of abusive behaviors around you, towards you, or that you are currently, manifesting or perpetrating right now. I mean, you work in an office where the boss is like Erujeje Leti Okunkupa, like the boss is so, like you're walking into the office, you're afraid that, oh my God, what would this boss say? Or you're a worker in a local church where when the pastor gets to the pulpit, he's always criticizing members, saying nasty things. He's abusing you people, and then no one can call this pastor's bluff because, hey, he's man of God. You need to watch it, guys. You need to pay attention to abuse in every form, in every place. It is not intimate partner violence. Intimate partner violence is not the only form of abuse there is. That's what I'm just trying to say. Abuse in the family. You live in a family where your family members judge you. Maybe you're a content creator and they're like, ricochet, compose to Lori social media. They are abusing you. If you need to take them off your space, let them go. Everything for your mental health. You see, you're in a family setting where they do not see any good in you. That is abuse. You might not be able to change your family members, right? But you can recreate your life and you can choose who you want to keep in your space. It's a new year. Abundance is there, but despite that there is abundance out there, you need to focus on you need to ask yourself, what is the energy around you? What energy is around you? What energy is around you? If you have the wrongest people in your space, if you have the wrong energy vibrating in your space, no, you can't thrive. You will burn out, because they say light calleth unto light. It's just so simple. And I hope that today you have learned that, one, physical violence is not the only form of violence out there. Two, that emotional abuse remains remains the worst kind of abuse there is. Three, that abuse is happening everywhere. And with what I've described today, everyone is a victim of abuse. Four, that we are all prone to abusive behaviors, but we need to watch it and we need to pay attention to the red flags. Six, I emphasize that the world should burn for your mental health, because your sanity is important. Seven, I said to you also that intimate partner violence is not the only form of violence out there, that there are several kinds of violence out there. That's family violence, church violence, religious violence, work setting violence. Violence is happening in every space. And so we need to be advocates. We need to speak out. When you see something, say something. And I hope that you have learned something today. If you found this video useful, please comment in the chats and tag someone. Follow the Left-Handers Club on Instagram. And you can also join our Facebook group. Simply go to Facebook and search the Left-Handers African Network Against Abuse and Stigma. Let me say that one more time. So for you to find us on social media, we're on Facebook. We've got a Facebook community. It's a private Facebook community. Join the Facebook community by searching the Left-Handers African Network Against Stigma and Abuse. The Left-Handers African Network Against Stigma and Abuse. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining. If you're watching on our Instagram handle or you're watching on Facebook, you can also follow us on Instagram, okay? You can also follow us on Instagram at the Left-Handers Club NG. You can also follow us on Instagram at the Left-Handers Club NG, okay? Lastly, we have a number of activities or projects that we hope to achieve this year. First is we would be holding story therapy series on a weekly basis every Sunday on our social media platforms, and I, as the host for that session, would also stream these sessions, on other platforms, okay? On my other social media, on my personal social media handles. Secondly, we would be dividing our project at the Left-Handers International Organization into 4. So for the first half of the year, we'll be working in partnership with the Bisola Miriam brand to kind of equip people with the skills to start the year, okay? With the skills to start the year 2022 powerfully. You see, a lot of times the reason why we'll take shit, the reason why we tolerate some nonsense, the reason why we stay in some abusive relationships or family setting is because those people are feeding us. It is because there is no other way out. It is because we lack financial independence. It is because there is no way out. But if you have the skills, if you have the financial independence to thrive, God, you will not tolerate certain things. You would walk out of some relationships. You will walk out of some job settings. You will leave some church settings. You leave some circle because you can earn, you can survive, you can feed yourself. That is one of the reasons why people tolerate all sorts of injustice. And so the goal in the first quarter of this year is to work with Bisola Miriam, me, myself, and I, and some other, seasoned speakers to see to it that We provide you with world-class information on how you can develop mobile skills in 2022, so that you can tell your abuser to heaven with you. I can stand by myself, because that is the only weapon. Financial independence is one weapon that you can use to conquer almost any kind of abuse. When you're independent, you can walk away. And that is the truth. Secondly, in the second half of so in summary, in the first half of the year, the goal is to teach people, who will be joining, who will be watching the live stream on different platforms, and especially on my personal social media handles, how to develop, mobile skills. What are mobile skills? Web designing. Web designing is a mobile skill. YouTube content creation is a mobile skill. To be able to make this wig that I'm wearing is a wig, it's not hair. To be able to make this wig is a mobile skill. Braiding is a mobile skill. Writing, creative writing is a mobile skill. Public speaking is a mobile skill. Knitting, sewing, baking, these are all different kinds of mobile skills. In the second half of the year, as a study abroad coach, and as someone who works closely with scholars looking to make money from their knowledge, or who are looking to relocate to study or to live abroad, I will be working and in partnership with the Left-Handers International Organization to ensure that scholars who are looking to study abroad, or anyone, or a survivor of domestic violence, or a victim of domestic violence, intimate partner violence, or family violence, or work setting violence, any form of violence, can also develop, can also become aware of the opportunities out there for them, especially if they wish or choose to, want to study abroad. And I will be working to ensure that we make content available, on the Bisola Miriam handle specifically in that area. And of course, those content would also be redistributed on our non-profit platform, so that people can equally get access to those information. But if you follow at Bisola Miriam _SDG10, you can get, updates on what we have to offer, these customized projects or activities that we would be running. First, the mobile skill project in the first half. Second, the study abroad project in the second half. And thirdly, in the third half, as we plan to, have the International Left-Handers Day, and as we plan to celebrate the World Domestic Violence Day, we'll be doing a massive awareness, massive campaign on what? Domestic violence and abuse. Basically everything we'll be doing in the third quarter will be strategically, positioned to educate people on the things that they need to know, especially if they are victims of narcissistic relationships, narcissistic abuse, other kinds of abuse, family violence, intimate partner violence, work setting violence, church or religious violence, any kind of violence. We would make those, we'll create awareness powerfully in the third quarter of the year. And in the last quarter of the year, would, by the grace of God, holding physical conferences at specific locations in Africa. So the goal is to choose one African region, one region in Southern Africa, one region in Northern Africa, one region in Eastern Africa, and another region in Northern Africa, okay? West, North, East, South. So in these 4 regions of Africa, including Nigeria, we would have physical conference hold. And if you think you are in the northern part of Africa, in the eastern part of Africa, in the western part of Africa, whatever part of Africa that you are right now, and you feel that you can partner with us to make this physical conference a reality, please send a chat or just shoot us a message via our Instagram handle, or on Facebook. You can drop a comment as you're watching right now on our group. What do we hope to achieve with this conference? First, this conference is going to, as we have always done before, is an inclusive conference with the goal is to have this conference at the end of every year to do three things. One, to inform people about this, to teach people for free the skills that mobile skills, but taking these information, taking these resources to them physically, in person. Secondly, to equip them about the opportunities out there, especially for those who want to study abroad. And so the idea is to take this knowledge, take these resources to people in their in their countries or in their different countries in person. Thirdly, the goal at this conference, which of course is the very first agenda that we hope to achieve at this physical conference at these different locations, is to also, teach people how to become aware of the red flags, or how people can actually identify violence or what violence is about. Most importantly, we'll be having therapy sessions during this conference so that people can heal or begin their journey to healing from domestic violence, intimate partner violence, or any form of violence whatsoever. So the primary goal of the conference is to heal people who are traumatized, or to bring healing closer to people through the resources, through the seasoned speakers, through the seasoned social workers who will be making themselves available at this physical conference in these different regions. One. Secondly, we would also make sure that while you're working to heal, you're financially independent, and we'll teach financial literacy. Entrepreneurial skills will be the goal, will be the second objective of this conference. The third objective of this conference will be to also expose people who will be coming to these physical events on the opportunities abroad and how they can leverage on study or migration opportunities. Because the truth of the matter is, Africa is big, but Africa is now where you call Africa. Africa is not just, our countries, right? We can create the African narrative, the Afrocentric, ideology in other parts of the world. And our goal is to, connect Africans with study abroad opportunities, or international opportunities, or migration opportunities, so that with the opportunities they get to do great things in this Western countries, we can better, develop our continent. And I hope that you have gotten value from today's session, and you seem to understand what our project for the year is. Like I said, follow us on Instagram at the Left-Handers Club NG, and you can also follow my personal handle to learn more about these projects at bmiriam _SDG10, at bmiriam _SDG10. And if, of course, you want to learn more about, you want to join our Facebook community, just simply go to Facebook and search the Left-Handers African Network Against Stigma and Abuse. Thank you so much for joining. I always say that abundance is here, there is no lack. I'll see you some other time. God bless you, and abundance is here. Talk soon.